You had the reception without me. Donna, listen. You had the reception without me. Hello, everyone. I'm the doctor. They had the reception without... yes, I gathered. Donna, we didn't know what was going on. You vanished. Oh, fuck off, Lance. You thought I wanted another cup of tea, did you? Don't think I don't know what you're up to. Me and a Martian boy here, we're on to you. Donna, I'm not from Mars. Hush! You. Donna, what are you talking about? I love you. You call this love, eh? Well. Oh, Donna, please forgive me. Oh, Donna, may we have this dance? Oh, but it was all Neris. It was her fault. Neris? What are you on about? Oh, Donna, you... Whoa, okay, easy. It's all getting a bit out of hand. Let's get back to the celebration, shall we? Suppose I could have one dance.
Well, I roamed about this earth with just a suitcase in my hand.
Empress of the Rachnos, may I have this dance? I'm afraid I have to decline. This dance floor will be scorched. Then what happens next is your own doing. You didn't listen. Merry Christmas.
Hello Whovians and welcome to my latest Doctor Who review, where today I review the Doctor Who 2006 Christmas special, The Runaway Bride, starring David Tennant as the 10th Doctor. Okay, so The Runaway Bride, this is a very, very interesting Doctor Who story, being the second Christmas special since the revival of Doctor Who. And it also features the first appearance of Catherine Tate as Donna Noble. Woohoo! Yes! She will go on to become a regular companion a bit later, but for now, let's begin. So, the plot of The Runaway Bride is as follows. Killer Santas, exploding baubles, and alien spaceships shaped like a giant star. Christmas with the Doctor is anything but a silent night. Yeah, so that's the brief synopsis of The Runaway Bride. So The Runaway Bride, now, this is a very popular Doctor Who story, and I can certainly see why. This is a very good Doctor Who Christmas special. I really do like this story. It may not be 100% perfect, but I really think it is well done. It is a really good time. And that's the thing with The Runaway Bride. It's much more of a fun Doctor Who story than anything else. The previous Christmas special, The Christmas Invasion, definitely took itself a bit more seriously, especially with the stakes of that story, considering the Doctor was absent for most of that story. However, in this Christmas special, the Doctor is very much involved, and him and Donna are pretty much carrying the whole episode. First of all, I think the story itself is very cleverly done, actually. The idea that Donna had been given Huon particles into her body through cups of coffee, which her fiancé, Lance, had been making for her, and then she magnetised with the TARDIS and then met the Doctor, and then there we are. I really liked the whole mystery surrounding the Huon particles and the way the Doctor was trying to help Donna figure out what had actually happened, and then discovering the Rachnos was behind the whole thing as well, along with Lance, her fiancé. What is great about The Runaway Bride is that we see a great chemistry on screen with David Tennant and Catherine Tate. These two honestly have great comedic banter back and forth. Both their characters just work so well together. And obviously we will see more of this in the 4th series of the new show. But for now, this is the first sort of glimpse at the Doctor-Donna friendship. Catherine Tate is just great as Donna. She really is. She does shout a little bit in this episode. She does get a bit shouty. Maybe she could have toned down some of that, but she's a great character, and she will go on to be a much better character in Series 4. She's a great guest star here, but I also like the fact that Donna is a character with great dramatic weight, which we will see more of in Series 4. One of Donna's best moments in this particular episode is when she actually stops the Doctor from going too far with murdering the Rachnos and her children. I mean, it's a very dark scene, and Donna stops the Doctor from going too far, and the two of them obviously manage to escape as well. But throughout the story, there's a lot of comedic banter going on, and it is a very funny story to watch the Runaway Bride. It's just a great time. You know, you can just have a great fun with it, and you know, every other Christmas I'll pop it on and I'll have a great laugh with it. It is really nice, and it certainly is nice to kind of have a sort of departure of the serious tone every once in a while. I mean, there are some more serious and emotional scenes in this story, but on a sort of smaller scale. David Tennant is great as the Doctor once again. He never fails to deliver, and he's very funny, especially with Donna. And then there's times when she slaps him and she calls him Martian, and he says, "Oh, I'm not from Mars," and there's a whole joke about her wedding dress and pockets, and there's just great comedic timing in this episode and great writing from Russell T Davies. I do think that there are maybe a few too many references to Rose. I think it's a time that they should have kind of moved on from Rose. There's at least like 3 references to Rose. It's not a major problem, but I just would have preferred maybe if they just kind of had the 2 references, like when Donna picks up Rose's shirt and the Doctor says, "No, that's my friend, I lost her." And then at the very end when she says, "What was her name?" and he says her name was Rose. Perhaps that should have been it, or maybe even just that reference in the TARDIS would have been fine. The references to Rose, a little bit too much, but it doesn't damage the overall story, but it's just kind of unnecessary. That's what I'm trying to say. I really like the car chase sequence when the Doctor is trying to pursue the taxi that Donna is stuck in, which is being driven by the pilot fish. I think that's a very funny sequence, and especially their dialogue. You know, "Santa's a robot. I'm supposed to be getting married. Yes, you look lovely. Now come on." He's like holding his hand outside the door, and she jumps into the TARDIS, and there's 2 little kids in a car on the motorway watching, and they're cheering, and it's just great fun. It's superb fun to watch. It really is. The weakest aspect of this episode is probably Lance. The actor is fine, but I think the writing for Lance could have been a bit better. His motivations behind what he wanted to do and bringing Donna to the TARDIS was kind of silly, really. I just don't buy Lance's motivation that, he wanted to see the stars and travel the universe or whatever. I just don't know if that's enough of a motivation. And obviously he found Donna to be particularly annoying with her constant persistence, and the fact that Donna isn't the sort of the sharpest tool in the shed. He just got sick of her, and she did actually fall in love with him, and he said that's what made it easy. There's a bit of a cheesy line when he says, "This time, it's personnel." I just feel like Lance is a bit of an underdeveloped villain. I just think maybe we could have seen a bit more of his character to begin with. I think Lance's death is a bit anticlimactic. It's kind of shocking for Donna, obviously, on an emotional level, but his death doesn't really make much difference to the story, to be perfectly honest. It is sad, though, to see Donna heartbroken. She lost her job, she became a widow, and met Time Lord and other aliens on the same day, so she had quite a day, and, you know, she doesn't like Christmas, and turned out to be the most eventful Christmas of her life. The Empress of the Rachnos is a terrific villain. She's a really menacing thing. I mean, we don't see her for that long on screen. She's on screen for about 20 minutes, but those 20 minutes are pretty spectacular. The special effects makeup is just superb. She's this massive giant spider. She has these sort of pincers. She puts on a sort of lisp with her voice. The voice is really interesting. It's kind of freaky. I really like the idea of the voice. There is that especially dark scene at the very end when the Doctor gives her the choice. He says, "Leave this planet and I'll help you find somewhere else, or, you know, I'll stop you." And she doesn't listen, so basically he decides to kill her and her children. It's actually a very dark scene, and it actually kind of shocked me rewatching it, seeing like he flooded the Thames and he drowned them, and when she's crying out, "My children!" It's actually horrible, and you can see Donna like going, "Oh my god, he's murdering them," and it's such a shocking moment for David Tennant. It's his dark moment. I think it's one of his very few dark Doctor moments, which it works really well to show the dramatic side of his character and how if the Doctor is pushed, he will go to those lengths, but he always needs someone to pull him back, to rein him in. And Donna was that person. And we do discover in a future episode called Turn Left that if Donna wasn't there to stop the Doctor, he would have died. So she saved his life as much as stopping what was happening. Very well done, very dramatic scene, and kind of scary. This is where the Doctor is very interesting as a character, because he's not really a hero or a villain. He's both. He's sort of an anti-hero, anti-villain. He makes really dark choices at times, and I think he's a character who has such a range, which is interesting to show, and I think it's a great moment for this particular episode and for David Tennant as well. Also, bringing back the pilot fish. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind seeing them. They don't really do that much other than drive the taxi and they invade the wedding, and the Christmas trees with the baubles flying everywhere. That's pretty cool. I do quite like that. I mean, you could argue that maybe the pilot fish are kind of unnecessary in this story, but it's cool to see them. I have nothing against them, really. Like I said, the strength of this story is the comedy, and the comedy works very well. I mean, the story itself is very well done, for the most part, with the exception of Lance, but I still think the comedy outweighs most of the dramatic moments this time. But that's fine. I actually quite like watching this one, because it's just so much fun as well. Oh, speaking of Rose references, there's even that flashback when the Doctor's watching that couple dance, and then he remembers when he caught Rose in New Earth, and I think maybe like I said, the Rose references are just too hammed. Like, I understand the Doctor's heartbroken and he's trying to get over Rose, but I don't think we needed this many references to Rose in this story. So Murray Gold's soundtrack is also very good, and production design is excellent. Obviously, most of the story is set during London in the present day at the time, which would have been like 2006. But even so, it's interesting to see the Thames completely flooded at the very end. That's not a sight that you would normally see, which I think is kind of interesting. Also, the episode is an hour long. It moves at a good pace, and it moves fine. I also like the moments when the Doctor and Donna go back to the Big Bang and see the creation of the universe to try and discover more about the Arachnos, and it's just a very visually beautiful moment. I think it really works very well. So The Runaway Bride overall is a very fun Doctor Who episode. It's very well written, and I like the fact that the underground floor, which has a reference to Torchwood, is also used as a part of the Arachnos' plan. And obviously Lance being the personnel of H.C. Clements and giving Donna the particles. It's a very well written story. It's just Lance's motivation I find a bit weak. I think that sort of puts it down a bit, and you could argue the pilot fish are unnecessary. I don't mind them. But still, it's great fun to watch. So I'm going to give The Runaway Bride an overall score of 9 out of 10. I do like the goodbye scene as well between the Doctor and Donna. It's a very well done sequence, and how she challenges him. She said, you scared me to death. I don't want to join you. Your life is dangerous. You live your life like this? Wow, that's just awful. So I think it's really interesting to see how sometimes people choose to not go with the Doctor because they're scared of the life he lives. I mean, and well, rightfully so. It is a dangerous life. But obviously we know that Donna will regret her decision, and she will end up travelling with the Doctor in Series 4. But for now, yeah, that's it. The Runaway Bride. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Please comment down below and let me know what you think. And stay tuned next time when we go into Series 3 of the new series, where we see the introduction of Martha Jones. Woohoo! Freema Agyeman as Martha Jones, one of my favourite companions. So can't wait for that. Until next time, I'm Mr. TARDIS11. See you soon. Bye for now.